This is Jason Herbert, and this is a reckoning. Are we still saying, is it a reckoning? I guess we're going to say it's a reckoning still. I don't know. This is his gym. This is something. I don't know. We're gonna do this episode. Anyway, I have for you guys today, we are talking about being a scholar, being an academic, being a big, huge nerd, at least in my case, and also weight training and lifting and doing all this kind of stuff, whether it's exercise, cardio, weightlifting, whatever it is. Because we've had a lot of people asking us about that on Blue Sky and elsewhere. So I thought maybe what I would do would be to introduce and bring into you guys two people who I am terrified of, because I look at the stuff that you guys post and I am scared shitless at the amount of weight you guys throw up. So there's that. In addition to giant intellect, I'm talking about giant weight sets, and I'm talking about my friends, Pat Wyman, Vanessa Miller. Guys, how are you?
Doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Really stoked to chat about this.
Yeah, same. Glad to be here.
Dude, I'm so excited. And Pat, you've talked about this before because you were doing a pod on this for a little while. And then Vanessa, I see you on is it TikTok or Instagram? Where is it? I see you throwing massive amounts of weight over your head because you do like the Olympic stuff, right?
Yes, probably all of the above. I do Olympic weightlifting. So does mine, if it makes it any better.
Yeah, sure. I'm Pat Wyman. I'm the host of the Tides of History podcast. I have a PhD in history in now what seems like a very increasingly long time ago. I wrote a book called The Verge that came out in 2021. My second book called Lost Worlds, it's about prehistory from the Ice Age to the Bronze Age, is currently somewhere in editing hell. I have no idea where. It's not important, not my job, not my problem. And I have been lifting weights for 23 years at this point.
So much.
I've gotten to see all the trends come and go. I've gotten to see all sorts of stuff. It's been so fun.
I know it. Vanessa, how about yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Vanessa Miller. I am currently an assistant professor of education law at Indiana University. I study the intersection of criminal law, criminal procedure, and education. So anything from policing to the Fourth Amendment and all the fun things in between. I have been lifting weights in an official capacity 3 years next week. So I'm hitting a little milestone in my Olympic weightlifting.
Awesome.
Yeah. It was my gift to myself. Once I turned 30, I said, I want to gain strength. And I thought the best way to do that was under a barbell. And I have been so thankful with that decision.
Okay, I guess actually that leads into my first question for you guys. And one of the things I dig is that all three of us are academics, but in different varying levels of profession. So people listening in, maybe you've got some different kind of, we have professors and we have like myself at the Forest Service and all this kind of stuff, like different kind of lifestyles and stuff like that. So hopefully you can take from whatever and apply that. But Vanessa, you kind of lead into my first natural question, which is like, why did you start lifting? You said this was a gift to yourself when you turned 30, or like what was the motive? Did you have any experience lifting beforehand? Like,
no.
What was your deal? Why were you like, what I really want to do is threaten my life with weights? So why did you say, hey, I want to start doing this thing?
Yeah, so I moved to Florida for a postdoc position.
Woo-hoo! Sorry.
I mean, I'm from Florida, Floridian, born and raised, Miami, so.
I didn't know that.
Yes. I am a Miamian, true to my heart, Pitbull. If you're listening to this, I am your number one fan.
Do you know that I have Mr. 305 on my gym playlist?
Well, I mean, he is my gym playlist, so.
So I don't. You know what? I don't even care. I have just applied to a position at the University of Florida this week, so like we'll see if I get to go home. Like I'm wearing all my Kentucky gear. I don't know if you can see me, Vanessa, but I am such a Florida homer at this point. I did not know you were from Miami.
Yeah. I'm from Miami, so you might hear the Miami accent slip out every now and then.
Are you from Hialeah?
I'm from Kendall.
Oh, I've survived Kendall one time.
Oh yeah, one time.
I went down there. Yeah, I went down there to like go buy some Star Wars toys one time when I was living on Palm Beach.
It's a good place. I'm also a Gator, so that's a dear to my heart. So that's where I was doing my postdoc, was at University of Florida. Yeah,
I did not know that.
It was a good place. But no, so I'd been doing CrossFit for maybe, I don't know, like a year or so. And I was like, all right, let me, while I'm going to be in this postdoc, let me find some gyms to, insert myself into the community and find some other folks to work out with. And the CrossFit gym I went to, they were like, in the event you're interested, on Tuesday and Thursday nights, we have Olympic weightlifting. And I saw all of the folks who were coming into Olympic weightlifting, and this name, Olympic weightlifting, I was like, I can't do that. And then there were women who looked just like me, and they were so strong, and they were all Latinas, and they were playing reggaeton, Bad Bunny, Pitbull. And I'm like, okay, if I'm not going to come here to get strong, I'm going to come here to work out and dance and have a good time. So it was because of them that I started weightlifting. And I thought, this is really fun. This is a great way to spend my time. And I really, without getting too much into it, but I did not support my body during my law degree, my PhD. So I thought, this is a time to move. And literally in between sets, I was just dancing reggaeton with my friends and trying to lift heavy weights. So that's how I got into it 3 years ago. And like I said, it was the best decision I made for myself.
Love that. I have so many questions for you in just a second about like this, for both of you actually, about like this idea of like that first day in the gym. But we'll get into that in a second. Yes. Pat, what about you? You've been lifting for much longer than either of us.
Oh, wow. So I've been at this for a very long time. I started off, I was 16 and I wasn't in good shape and I didn't have good self-esteem. And I grew up in Yakima, Washington, which is if you were looking for a description of the middle of nowhere like that, you would find that. And the people were not didn't cut a lot of slack to a teenager who really liked books and history and things like that. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to try this. It looks like fun. I want to be jacked. So I started lifting. I did just kind of like bro stuff for years. I dabbled a little bit in powerlifting when I was in my late teens and early 20s. Didn't know anything about equipped powerlifting. So showed up to a meet that turned out to be an equipped meet. And that was the first time I put on a squat suit or anything like that, or a bench shirt. So that was an interesting experience. And then since then, I've just tried to keep active in some way. When I was in graduate school, I did a lot of combat sports. I did a lot of Muay Thai and a lot of jiu-jitsu. When I finished that, I kind of went back to lifting again, did kind of bro stuff. But a couple of years ago, after we moved to Phoenix, I started training in Olympic weightlifting. Also, I found a great gym. I found a fantastic coach pretty close to my house and just kind of by accident fell into it. Love Olympic weightlifting. I competed a few times. It destroyed me. Like the volume of training at this age for me was a little much. So I stopped doing that. And for about the last year and a half, I've been working with a coach who's a professional strongman. And I've just been trying to get stronger and feel better. And my goal is to hit a deadlift PR before my 40th birthday in about a month. So we'll see how that goes. That's what I'm training for right now. I'm hoping if I could hit 500 again, I would be pretty happy about that. I don't think that's going to happen, but I think 480 is doable. 485, somewhere in that range.
Oh yeah, we're throwing numbers around today. Like it's about to be on. Like I want to know for people, like, since this is a podcast episode about lifting and stuff like that, it's not like a flex if you just throw on. There's like, yeah, I just did this amount in the gym, like on Blue Sky and stuff. And I think maybe Pat, that and I love, Vanessa, that you're talking about that you've been doing this for 3 years, because for me it was actually, I also keep in my own mind, I've been lifting now for 10 years, right? And for me it's a much different story. This isn't necessarily a negative one, but I was going through a divorce. I was living in Kansas. I was super sad all the time, right? And a buddy of mine just grasped me, and he was a guy, a colleague of mine that I was going to get my master's degree at Wichita State with. And he's like, "Hey, we're going to the gym tonight," right? And he's like, and I hadn't been, I'd kind of messed around at the gym from whatever, but nothing concentrated, right? I remember the first day we get in there, and he's like, "Let's see what we can do." He's like, "Sit down, lay down on the bar." We did the chest day, of course, because it's Monday. For those of you guys listening, Monday is International Chest Day. This is I can't do chest day on anything other than Monday. But I remember to this day, he's like, "Just close your eyes, don't pay attention, let's figure out." And he put 165 pounds on the bar, and it was like, that's what I could do. I found out that one day, right? From then on out, it became, for me, it became this thing where it really, and I give lifting so much credit for, in a lot of ways, getting me through my divorce and helping me in a lot of ways stay alive. Because when it felt like everything in my life was like falling apart, I'm away from my family, I'm getting divorced, I'm old, right? I think it was like, how old am I now? I was like 37. Right, when I started lifting. And it was like, but every day I could go in there and I found that the only thing I could think about when I was in the gym was the gym. I wouldn't think about classes. I wouldn't think about whatever. I would only think about lifting. And as bad as I felt about everything else around me, every single week I got a little bit stronger. And you could like see that. And like that progression of like, I could do more today than I did last week or whatever. And you guys know as well, like when you first start off, those gains come so quick.
God,
it comes so quick.
Now.
I'm so jealous.
I'm so jealous of the newbie
you
gains.
Get spoiled. You get so spoiled.
I am so spoiled because every year I think, okay, because I set like quarterly goals, like semesterly goals. So like, all right, this semester I'm going to lift this much. And every semester I'm like, man, I'm putting like 5 to 7 kilos, which is 11 to, without my calculator, I'm not doing well here.
Numbers. There's more.
Yeah. So at least like 10 to 12 pounds every semester. And I'm like, I am going to go to the Olympics next week. Like I am so strong. And then I'm like, oh no, I'm just getting the beginner gains that everyone has been talking about.
Love the beginner gains. I would kill for beginner gains.
It's been great.
Yeah, those days I wasted that window so completely when I first started lifting. I look back on it and I'm like, God, I would have done things differently.
Oh my gosh.
I would have eaten so much more.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I get so many, and this like I get a lot of people ask me a lot of times when they bump in and be like, "Hey man, where'd you play ball?" Right? Like what position, or like what position did you play? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, trombone. And I say this in jest, but you know, it's a thing that I actually always fought against, which is like, there's this weird thing now where I realize I'm a bigger, stronger guy, right? And I know this because I know, right? I just know I'm a strong dude. But in my head, and I don't know if either of you have wrestled with it or not, I still almost envision myself as like this teenage kid who was not very strong, who was quite weak all until I started lifting. It's this weird mental dynamic where I know what I am, but I still picture myself elsewise.
100%. The body I've had body dysmorphia forever.
Thank you.
And like there's that at least for me has never gone away and it never will. Like I will always see myself as, when I look in the mirror on some level, as the worst version of myself. So when I was 15, I'd broken my foot. I'd put on 40 pounds at the same time as I was going through like a burst of puberty, and I looked terrible. I felt terrible, and like to some extent, I will always see that when I look in the mirror, no matter what the reality is. But then every once in a while, like you see yourself through someone else's eyes, and you're like, oh, that's not at all.
Right.
That's like,
yeah.
Like that's not true at all. And to your point and what you were saying earlier, like there have been lots of different times in my life where things have felt terrible or out of control, whether it was grad school or personal life or work or whatever, when the gym has always been there for me. And often there have been people there that I could depend on and rely on. And Vanessa, I know you mentioned just how much fun it is to be lifting around people with Olympic weightlifting. I met some of the most wonderful, fascinating, diverse cast of characters, like a real mouthy, highly accomplished masters lifter who's a surgical tech. Not somebody I ever would have talked to otherwise. Her name is Coco. She fucking rules. Like my old weightlifting coach was a Romanian guy who almost went to the Olympics in 2004. He's got a story about that, among many other things. But he was a cop. But he also has a degree in family therapy. So he would come in and he would say, "How was your trauma today?" And it's just like, these are not experiences that you can get anywhere else. Like that kind of feeling, that sense of community, I can't recommend it highly enough. Like, I don't know what I would have done at many different points if it weren't for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, to the community point, being in that first gym, Guam City Fitness in Gainesville, Florida.
I know this gym.
Do you? It's
I've lifted there.
it has such a good place in my heart because that's where I learned Olympic
Yes.
weightlifting. And
Yes.
when I met all of these other women and they're like, oh, I have a PhD in toxicology and I study manatees and, the water, the toxicity in the water, and other folks who are getting PhD in biology. And I'm here like, I have a law degree and a PhD, and I'm just one of many people that are at this gym. And it's just to lift with other people who, it doesn't matter where you're coming from, the academic pedigree, because lifting in a college town, it's going to be other professors, other PhD students, other grad students. So you're constantly surrounded by this academic, hierarchy, but you're in the gym to lift together. And it truly was the best experience. And one thing I'll say about always looking at yourself and seeing this former version of yourself, that gets knocked off real quick when I put on a blazer that I had 6-7 months ago, and I'm like, man, my shoulders and my lats are not fitting in this. And then I'm like, this is why I'm doing it. And then my bank account doesn't appreciate it on top of all the belts and shoes. But then I'm like, now I got to get another blazer because this doesn't fit.
All right. I want to ask you guys this because I feel like one of the things that people really struggle with was when they're thinking about like, hey, I want to go to the gym, but I'm really afraid, right? I'm afraid of what people are going to think of me. I'm afraid I don't know how to do the exercises. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where to go. People are going to judge me. Like there's very much this thought of like when you go in, like hey, I'm scared of going in the gym. Can you guys talk a little bit about that? Like your first day, did you find that to be the case? Were you worried about your nerves, or even like when you go to another town and you work at a different gym? Do you have those experiences? Because people listening in, what I want for you to understand is like going into the gym is actually the reverse. It's actually, in my mind, the most welcoming place you'll ever find. Pat, what do you think?
Yeah. So from my perspective, it's been a long time. So like this is one of the things, the privileges of long-term gym going is that I don't feel like I really get those kinds of nerves anymore. Like every once in a while, if I'm going to a new place or like before a competition, like 100%, I'm a nervous wreck. But I would say the big thing is that people are there to get better and feel good. That by and large, this is not 100% true, but by and large, people are stoked to see that you're there. No matter what your level is, people are stoked to see that you've come in and you want to do something. That doing something fitness related, whether even if it's going for a walk, is better than doing nothing. It's not about going in and doing something insane that makes everybody look at you and like stop what they're doing and stare. It's you're going in and you're putting in a little bit of work. It's just like grad school. You're going in and you're building a wall a brick at a time, and not every day is going to feel like you've made huge progress. Not every day is going to be a day where you've got a great lift to the post or something like that, but you go in and you do it. And most of the time you leave feeling better than you did when you got there. And usually somebody will smile at you or say, what's up? Or be like, hey, looking big today, looking big. And like stuff like that.
Feels good.
You can't like replace that with anything else. So I would say if you're scared, totally understandable. But even the nastiest, meanest looking people in a gym are usually pretty happy that you're there, and they're happy for you. They're happy for the place, and they will give you advice. It may not be great advice, but they usually will give you advice.
You can almost talk to everybody at the gym. I've never like somebody come up talk to me. Like I'm almost always happy to talk to anybody. Like whatever. But Vanessa, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll tell you about my first day because I think I threw up like twice.
Oh my gosh.
Once just out of nerves, but the second was because I did my first CrossFit WOD and it was Fran. And if you know anything about CrossFit, for Fran to be my first workout was probably not the best. So I was so nervous, and the coach who introduced me to the gym and what to expect, she said, "Do you see everyone out there?" And she's like pointing to the entire gym. And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Not one person cares what you are doing." And for some reason that just stuck with me, because every time I go to a new gym or I try out a new like gym equipment or have a new pair of leggings on, and I'm thinking, oh, people are going to care about what I'm wearing or how I'm moving. Her words stick with me because she's like, no one cares what you're doing. And Pat, like you said, they're just happy you're there. And I've only ever gone to group type workouts, so like a CrossFit environment or Olympic weightlifting with others. So I've never really gone to a global gym by myself. So I assume it's the same applies, that just no one's really going to be staring at you and thinking, well, look at what they're doing. I'm sure there's one or two, assholes out there. But for the most part, they're just happy you're there. So that was my first day at the gym, threw up out of nerves, did Fran, threw up again, and went home. And I was like, all right, let's try it again. One more time.
The fact that you went back after doing a Fran for your first workout is frankly remarkable.
Hi, Vanessa. I'm crazy. No.
Well, I had no idea what was normal or average, and she told the coach wasn't going to be like, "Hey, you're about to do some of the most difficult workout that we have planned." So I just thought that was what every day looked like, and then I came back, and she was like, "Well, see, that was unusual," and I was like, "Okay, thank God," because my legs hurt, my lungs hurt. I looked up what Fran lung was. So, but I will say, as a woman, it's really difficult to go into the gym and know that your body is out there. Like, people are going to be watching you. And that is a very difficult thing to think about. And even as a professor, when I stand before my class, I have to think about things that, my male colleagues don't have to think about. Like, what am I going to be wearing? How much makeup should I not wear? What kind of colors stand out? And unfortunately, that happens at the gym as well. And those are things that I have to think about. But once you build that community, and that community is built around you, you realize that everyone is happy you're there. And I'm just trying to get stronger, whether it's in black or hot pink leggings. I'm just trying to put 5 more kilos on the barbell.
This is one of the truly remarkable things to me for as long as I've been lifting, is how much more accessible and welcoming strength training is for women than it used to be.
Yeah,
like I remember when I first started lifting, whether it was at the gym at USC when I was an undergrad or whether a private gym somewhere, that you just did not see women lifting. Very, very rarely. If you did, they were usually a competitive bodybuilder of some kind. But the idea of just women lifting was not nearly as much of a thing. And women's Olympic weightlifting, which is now, quite frankly, more exciting than men's Olympic weightlifting for a variety of reasons. Even that sport was in its infancy back in the day. CrossFit, which has had a massive impact on women's participation in strength sports, was not a thing. That has been, frankly, wonderful to see from my perspective. And I will say that if you're nervous about going to a gym, going to like a big corporate gym chain is your first time, I think you are more likely to encounter like weird dudes who stare at you, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like that's more common in those environments. Like, you're almost better off finding a more specialized, like a hardcore gym, which is going to be filled with crusty old guys and who have been around forever and just don't care. And like, you might almost be better off with that kind of approach.
And I love that you all are historians. I mean, with a law degree, I feel like it's a little bit of a history degree, but I saw that in old exercise science textbooks that if women were to weightlift, their uterus would fall out. And I think that is one of my favorite facts that I've seen in the history of weightlifting. I was like, oh, good to know.
Well, the stuff like that, it's such a fun example and weird example of like casual misogyny over the ages, because like in every age there have been strong women. Like, you can go back, there are tons of Victorian pictures of female strong women, and there of strong women. There's tons of, if you go to the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, aerialists and like kind of pioneering female bodybuilders. Like, this has clearly never been true, but you can track like social attitudes toward women's exercise and women's bodies through these absolutely ridiculous fears and concerns.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you guys, because I know that for me, I want to talk a little bit about the mental and maybe emotional aspects of lifting as well, because when I get depressed, when I get grumpy, I look down, I'm like, have I been training recently? One of the first things I ask myself is, when's the last time you were in the gym? And if I go a couple, 3 days without lifting, I notice I get grumpy. I start to get depressed. Pat, Vanessa, you're probably far more versed in the science behind this than I am, as far as the orphans and all the chemical reactions and all this stuff. I just know that when I'm not lifting, when I don't move my body, and I've come to believe that, myself as an environmental historian, so I look at humans more as animals now than anything else. I'm like, your body is meant to be in motion. You're supposed to move it, whether it's running or lifting or jumping or whatever it is that you do, I get grumpy and I get depressed if I don't lift. And I know that if I am depressed, the first thing I need to do is like get up and go lift something heavy. Do you guys have those same experiences?
Vanessa?
Same. I wasn't sure if you were going to go or not.
No, go
yeah, there are very few things that I put above working out as an instant happy boost. Probably before that is like a large, good cheese pizza, but that helps me lift even more. So they go hand in hand.
Justifiable.
Yeah,
Need the
absolutely.
carbs.
Which
Right.
super quick plug, because I know it was raised before, but to all of the women out there, please eat more. Like, I promise you, to get stronger, to get that physique that you see or that you want, you got to eat more. And I learned that the hard way, but it really makes a world of difference. But I really think that times when I feel like, even when I'm failing in the gym, like I'm not hitting my lifts that I should be hitting, I'm not making the numbers I want to, whether that day or, long term, I'm still so happy that I get to do that. And I'm still so happy that this is a part of who I am now. And it is an instant boost of happiness to see those folks at the gym, to see people around me lifting, to feel like I'm doing something and moving my body in a way that makes me feel good. And I really do love it. And like I said, I was having a really difficult time taking care of myself during grad school. So finding this has just been an absolute pleasure for me on an everyday basis.
I want to talk about the grad school aspect for a second, because grad school was one of the most mentally challenging times of my life. And Vanessa, you mentioned lifting in a college town, like you're surrounded by other members of the academic community. For me, what I needed at that stage was to get away from it. So I went to a place where there were no other academics, which is like a Muay Thai and a Jiu-Jitsu gym. I found an incredible community, and I don't know if I would have made it through my PhD if not for those folks. Like, after I had just an absolutely terrible time with my qualifying exams, and like it was wildly stressful for a variety of reasons. Like, none of my academic colleagues asked me how I was doing or whether I was okay. Every single one of my friends at my gym asked me and were supportive and were there for me at a time when that was what I really needed. And the same deal with my Olympic weightlifting gym. Like, at a time when other people were not asking me how I was doing, when I was kind of struggling with some things, they were there. They were there to make me feel good about myself and cheer when I hit a big lift. And like, it's impossible to overstate, especially for academics who spend so much time isolated and alone with your thoughts and your research materials, how important it is to have somebody just tell you that they care about you and that you have value outside that pursuit. Like, it feels like a hugely affirming part of your being a human.
Yeah, can I jump in? Like, that was and I want to kind of reiterate just how close those bonds become. I remember the day I ever hit my biggest PR I ever did on bench. I hit 410 pounds on a bench one day.
Ridiculous.
I'm sorry, yes. What?
My bench press record is 410 pounds.
Jeez.
Did your lats just hang off the bench? Because that is crazy.
I do have large lats, thank you.
Big back, big bench.
But yes. Here was definitely true. But here was the thing about that. That day, I had the most amazing spotter. His name's Steve Privat. He lives in Florida, lives in Sebring, Florida. Steve is a guy. Like, okay, so there's this whole aspect of like when you make a gym bro, when you first familiarize yourself with a new gym, and you walk in and you slowly kind of figure out who's there, who are the regulars over time, stuff like that. And you go from eye contact to like head nods, to a fist bump, to you've made it in when a guy says, "Hey, could you spot me?" So yeah, hey, no problem, whatever, right? I spot guys now I know for like a year, still don't know their names.
No. And you don't need to. You don't need to have the connection.
Like,
you don't need it.
His name is Big Guy. How you doing, Big Guy?
What's up, King? Looking big, right? King.
Looking King. But I remember that day that I lifted that much, right? I put the weight on the thing. And guys, to tell you, that amount of weight was terrifying to me when I lay down on the bench and you just, before you even take the bar off the rack, as you start to push up, you feel the resistance of the bar and you're like, oh Christ, right? And I was really scared. But I had Steve there who was like, he and I had been lifting together for a while. He understood how I lifted, how I like to be positioned. He knew when I was weak, when I was strong, when I could go for more, before touching the bar. But I remember when I got this weight in there and I started doing, there were all these people who just kind of circled around the bench and were screaming for me as I come down, bring the bar down on my chest, and then you go for the big push up, right? And when you're doing chest, there's a spot as you're pushing up where the weight doesn't want to go. You kind of stall. It's like the stall area. And the whole place was screaming their heads off for me to make that weight. And I was just, I've done it one time. I don't even, like, the most I've done since is like 385. Like, and I feel like that should be a lot, but I've done more, so it's not that much. But yeah,
Never
my
enough.
point, it's just like, people are like, how much do you? I'm like, well, I used to do. It's like, I feel like I'm the guy who carries around a picture of his ex-girlfriend in his wallet. I'm like, I used to lift this much. You know?
Nobody can ever take that away from you. That's
and
this,
it's on Instagram. I have video proof.
Yeah, this is the thing that rules about it, right? And because I video my lifts, sometimes I post them, sometimes I don't. But it's always like, if I'm having a down day, I could go and I can look at a lift that I hit and be like, you know what, that was pretty cool. That was a cool thing that you did right there. Good for you, man. Like, good job, Pass Pat. Like, you've given us something decent to feel, like something to feel good about in the present. And
yeah, I do love the visual though of like everyone in the gym, coming around you, because that absolutely happens.
Feels good.
Whether it's a PR for you, a PR for the gym, like, it doesn't matter. When people see you and they know you're going for something that matters to you, they will come around, they will clap, they will scream in your face. And I have never been in a moment in, the academy where people are like, you submit that paper. Like, it doesn't happen. So I'm like, there's no comparison.
The gym is your hype squad, man. It
really
is.
It's something, because I now coach little kids in sports. I coach some of my kids' sports teams, and I want them to feel as good playing soccer or basketball or whatever as I do lifting. Like, that's my goal. I want them to feel that kind of positivity and like that kind of engagement. Like, that's what I want them to feel when they're out there on the field. And so I feel like it helped me learn to be more positive and to embrace that and not be embarrassed about expressions of joy. Which, if you're a repressed white man of a certain age, raised by a certain kind of repressed white man of a certain age, that is sometimes expressing emotions can be difficult, even positive ones. And so, like, when the first time I hit a big squat at my Olympic weightlifting gym, and people were like, "Hell yeah!" and I was like, I can be like, yeah, I can say something, like, right. I can show some sort of positive emotion here, and that is acceptable. Like, that felt like a breakthrough for me. That was 20 years into lifting for me. That was not an immediate thing. And so I can't overstate how good that's been. Even just talking about it makes me happy.
It does. And I actually want to ask you guys, because both of you I've seen post gym stuff on various levels of social media. I want to ask you guys about this because it's a thing that I've kind of wrestled with. Like, I feel like it's okay for me to post lifting stuff on Instagram because that's visual. But then I feel weird about posting like a gym pic when I'm like on Blue Sky or something. It's like, and I wonder if either of you wrestle with this idea of like balancing being an academic versus being proud or showing off. I've sometimes felt like it was almost taboo to be like showing that I weightlift and stuff, and in a visual manner versus like, hey, I went to the gym today or whatever. Like, do you guys have thoughts on like being academics and also showing and like doing stuff on social media or demonstrating what you do there? Like, what are your thoughts there? Because I've seen both of you doing your thing.
Yeah, I'll take this one because I have a unique story. So I remember the first time I posted about or a video of me lifting on X at the time, Twitter. And I said, I don't usually post weightlifting content on here. However, this has become such a big part of my life. I want to share it because I would be remiss if I don't share this substantial part of my life that actually helps me be a better academic. I'm sleeping better. I feel better. And it was, it was a big moment, but it was so silly because it was, like the first time I hit a snatch over 100 pounds, and the first time I did a clean and jerk over 120 pounds. And at that time, that was huge numbers for me. And I posted it and I got the best responses. So I was like, this is great. I love doing this. I'm going to keep doing it. I got a lot of followers who are doing Olympic weightlifting. And it was such a great way for me to connect outside of the gym with these folks. And then towards the end of my tenure on X, I deleted it not too long ago. I was getting requests from people asking, oh, could you do this without shoes? Could you zoom into your feet while you're doing these lifts? And I thought, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go now.
Wait a second. I was like, they're asking for advice. No, they want.
Nope.
No, it's exactly what you're thinking of.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is my time.
I'm sorry.
So
I think that's a pretty great illustration of the life cycle of that social.
It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. But once I went over to Blue Sky, I thought, there's no way that I'm still not going to share this part of who I am, no matter who's watching the videos or not, because it makes me who I am. And like I said, it makes me a better academic. And I cannot share one without the other. Now, there are some thoughts that go through my head as to, what kind of angles while I'm doing squats. I'm a woman and I have to think about some of these contexts that I assume most other folks don't have to. But when I think about the folks in the gym who, women, non-binary, trans folks who have this perception of not just do I share myself in another capacity, it's do I share myself in another capacity that is open to critique. And I have to think about that all the time. So angles for me, if it's not the videos anymore, it's the angles, because I know with squats, I can be squatting 250 pounds, but where's my camera positioned? And I hate that I have to think about that, but it's, something I do. But at the end of the day, I love sharing it. And I love that, it connected me with you all. So I do have reservations, but I feel a little bit more free about it.
Vanessa, can I actually give a tip there?
Yeah.
You just skip leg day. That's all you just skip leg day. You don't have to worry about
not in my vocabulary.
No, you don't skip leg day.
You never skip leg day.
You do not skip leg day.
Olympic weightlifting every day is leg day, and even the days that you're not training are still leg day because your legs feel like shit. Like that's
always.
Absolutely.
You get like one day a week that your legs don't hurt, and then you're right back in on the grinder. Like the one day your legs don't hurt is the day you're actually doing leg day, because that's the day you finally recovered.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then 2 days later, I have stairs. And I'm like, no.
It is rough. I always say I'm not, what I'm about to say is not legal advice, but do not skip leg day. And that is like semi-legal advice. Like, do not skip leg day.
It's the most important day. It really is. It hurts the most. But also, I read somewhere, I've gone now where I do leg day before I do a big chest day, because I had read that something about the way your body recovers from leg day. You can do a bigger lift after you do leg day. I was like, that's good.
So there's really, it's I've gotten fairly into this stuff over the last 5 or 6 years. I try to follow the research to the extent that I can. Olympic weightlifting is great for that because of the Soviet bloc tradition. So there's huge amounts of long-term studies of training methods, training methodologies. Even, if you were to dig into the archives, even including drug dosages that they were giving to athletes back in the day. It's a sport. Olympic weightlifting is specifically a sport that lends itself to that kind of analysis, and where there's a long coaching tradition where people know their stuff. They know their business. They know how it works. So what you're talking about is neural drive and essentially training your nervous system, that if you are squatting heavy weights, that is inducing neural fatigue. But if you are squatting heavy regularly, your nervous system will be able to push the bar harder on a bench press. There's a whole body aspect to heavy training. It applies to deadlifts too, except deadlifts are harder to recover from and more axial fatigue. But yeah, same deal. So but it also works just as well if you were to do really explosive jumps right before you bench press. Your bench press will usually go up because there's a kind of a cascading neural effect from maximum force production. That's the idea, at least.
I want to ask you guys, because here's the big question that we get all the time. I think you've probably all heard it. We see it on social media, stuff like that. I talk to other academics, other parents, other stuff, right? We all have other stuff going on in our lives, right? I would lift, but I just don't have the time, right? How do you make the time? That's the big one people always ask me is and I get a lot of people, it's like, hey, I want to train. I admire how much you're so focused on the gym and stuff like that. So here's my question: how do you guys make the time? Because I feel like you probably have some different strategies here. And this is not to belittle anyone who says, "Hey, I've got time issues," but I want to at least give to you guys, to everybody who's listening, how we make the time. Kind of go from there.
So in my case, my schedule is really flexible because I make a podcast, and I can kind of do that at whatever times are available. But for me, there was a point at which I started treating training as non-negotiable. I stopped thinking of it as working out and I started thinking of it as training. That was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And treating it like something that you owe yourself and that is on your schedule in the same way as any other essential appointment. It's no different. Like, I wouldn't skip a doctor's appointment. Why would I skip a training session? I wouldn't skip an interview for work. Why would I skip a training session? The sticking to that schedule and that kind of routine, I find it gives me structure in every other area of my life too. That I know that if I'm planning around this and I'm committing to doing this thing, then I need to be efficient in the way that I handle my other stuff. So I found it forces me to be more efficient and more intentional about how I'm using my time, which is overall good. That's overall good for me. I don't find that I have less time. Olympic weightlifting is hard because sessions can be extremely long, but for the most part, you got an hour. You got 30 minutes. You can, what matters is wanting to do it. If you don't want to do it, you're going to find excuses not to. If you do want to do it, you're going to find ways to make it happen. Worst case scenario, I'll grab a couple of kettlebells and I'll do 15, 20 minutes just to feel something.
Yep.
I just want to feel something.
Your cold heart.
Exactly. I'll do whatever, but longer, I plan around it. It's part of my life. It's part of my routine and I'm not skipping it ever.
Yeah, I love that. Like, why would you skip out on other appointments in the same way? And I think, so I'm training next year to do my first Olympic weightlifting meet. I'm so excited. Next year I get to enter Masters. So I'm really excited for that. And I treat it the same way. Like, the same way if I have a journal article I'm working on and I say, all right, I got 30 minutes here, 30 minutes there. I do the same exact thing with lifting. And you can ask any of my colleagues now, there are 2 things that you cannot bother me about: writing and working out. I put those times to the side. Those are specifically designated times. And like you said, I work around it. Now, I don't have children, so I, have I'm going to say a little bit. I have a lot more free time than those with children do. And I recognize that and I plan around it. So I understand where my time could go. And that's where I decide that I want to put the time and effort to write, to work out. Those go on my schedule and they are immovable with other things.
Yeah, you block out the time for it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I have a home gym that I've built over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. And if you have the space and the resources to do that, it's extremely valuable because it lowers the barrier to entry to getting a workout in. There are absolutely days where I'm like, I'm not feeling this. But if I go out into the garage, I see my stuff and I'm like, probably better. And on weekends when my kids are home, I usually work out in the mornings after I take my kids to school, do all that stuff, take the dog for a walk. That's usually when I lift, kind of before lunch, the lunch hour. But not having to go anywhere to do that makes it easy. On the weekends, my kids work out with me. Or at least they'll come hang out and play, which is what it should be anyway. Because then you're modeling some kind of positive behavior for them, whether they're participating or not. They're seeing you do it. And so as long as they can be safely kept in that space with me, which takes some doing because my children are nuts, always jumping off of shit. If I can keep them safe, then there's some value in that too. That you get to see this and I think it helps. It humanizes me to my kids too. I think where they're you can see daddy misses lifts. I've shown them videos of me missing lifts as a teaching tool where it's okay to not succeed at something the first time you try it. Sometimes you need to try 10 times. Sometimes you may never get it at all, but there's value in the attempt. You can kind of use it as a teaching tool for kids if that's the concern. And I know sometimes it does feel impossible, but the benefits to me are well worth it.
Yeah. You both of you guys just hit a thing that I've actually myself internalized, which is for me, there are 2 things that are immovable in my day. One, first and foremost, is that at 7:00, you guys know my kids live in Florida. I'm in Colorado. 7:00 every single night, I talk to my boys. Like we FaceTime every single day. Right? Sometimes we have to move around a little bit, but I don't. My entire day is built around talking to my kids at night. End of story. Number 2 is my gym time. And that means everything else that I do, whether it's my time with the Forest Service or HATM or writing my books, guys, I do not I'm busy all day. But I also like to think that the more physically active I am, the more intellectually engaged I am. When I was in graduate school, I would get up, I would read in the morning, go to the gym, eat lunch afterwards, and then I would write for the rest of the day because I felt like that was like my thing. But, and I think you're absolutely right, Pat. Like in here, I've got 2 kettlebells right here in my living room because if I don't have the time to go to the gym for like an hour, in half an hour with a single 35-pound kettlebell, I can kick my own ass harder, frankly, than I can when I'm lifting big or whatever because I'm doing a different kind of lift or whatever. It doesn't take a lot. It's just it requires a discipline. And I know that if I can't make it to the gym at 5 o'clock one day because I'm meeting with tribal members or I'm doing some other stuff or whatever, I will get up at 4:30 and go to the gym and be at the gym at 5 a.m. because that's the immovable object in my life. I can't not go.
I just want to say I am not a morning person, not a morning gym person. I am not a morning person. And I give all credit to folks who can get into the gym before 2 p.m. because that is I give you all the credit. But, when I plan around the gym, I go to the gym in the evening, right? And I go to the gym, my ideal gym time is like 6 to 8 p.m. And I'll move that just depending on how my day goes. But I look forward to it. It's the one thing that I look forward to. It's at the end of the day, after I work out, I shower, I'm like, all right, I feel good. And then the next day I do it all over again. So when I plan and, for those who are wondering, should I work out in the morning? Should I work out in the afternoon? You know yourself and you know when you feel best. And for me, I have to eat. I have to eat before I go to the gym. I have to make sure that I have, fuel in my body. So for me, and having it at the end of the day, that works best for me. And I just plan around it to be able to do so at that time. Now, if I was really in a crunch and I had to go to the gym in the morning, I would make it work because it matters to me, but I would not be a happy camper if I had to go, 4:35 in the morning. That's pushing it. But if I have to do it, I'll do it.
Yeah, no, I don't like that either. Like it's tough. And I know, and I also and that's the thing is like, one of the cool things about going to the gym is you become far more in touch with your own body. People are like, oh, listen to your body. Like, I don't know what my body sounds like. You do this enough and your body will tell you how it responds. And Vanessa, I'm just like you. I like to lift in the afternoons or evenings if I can. Mm-hmm. I don't like lifting when I'm fasted because my body I need something in my stomach to lift like an hour ahead of time or I just feel weird. I just don't, maybe it's mentally, but I don't feel like I've got the juice to lift, it's like in your own head or what, but that's also, it's part of the routine. And then it's a non-negotiable.
Yeah. And if it helps at all, protein bagels, like when I haven't eaten as much, I will bring a protein bagel. I can look up the brand. It's like 23 grams of protein in these bagels. And I just snack on them while I'm lifting and, it helps. But I'm with you. I cannot do fasted lifting.
No.
It's dangerous to me because I just can't do it.
I hate oats, but I found that they are really good for me. Like if I'm going to lift, like oats in the morning.
Have you had mush?
No, what's that?
That's mush.
Mush is like prepackaged oats. They're so good. I'm not sponsored by this, but you should. It's really good.
Look it up.
They're oats, but they come in different flavors. They're very good.
I just put oats and some bananas on them. I'm just gobble them as fast as I can so I don't actually have to taste them. Yeah. That and my Cuban coffee. Like I don't operate in the morning. Everybody knows this. I don't operate with my Cuban coffee in the morning.
Ay, pero claro que sí. Everybody needs their Cuban coffee because how else are you going to take it through the day?
No, mírame. All right. So no, it's that's like no entiendo.
No,
guys.
You entiendo very well. That's
okay.
Yeah. No.
Hi, welcome to Cuban Time with Jason, Patrick, and Vanessa.
No, I love this. My best friend's dad growing up was Argentinian, and so that was the household. Okay, like that was always the thing. I took tons of Spanish. I love Spanish. I love the Cuban accent. I could barely understand it.
I'm Cuban and I barely understand it sometimes.
Can I tell you guys today? I was talking to my friend Thomas Lukaku. You might be familiar with on Blue Sky. He calls me up. He goes, "Look, I know you're planning on moving back to Florida this year." He's like, "I have one thing to tell you: no more dating Cuban women. He's like, your heart is not built for that, Jason. It's like you've been down that road. It's not for you. I'm like, I'll do what I want. He's like, no, you won't. So there you go. That's my story.
That's somebody looking out for you right there.
I guess.
No.
Vanessa's probably rolling. I can't see Vanessa. She's probably rolling her eyes at me right now. All right, let me ask you guys this. Your favorite lift. Do you have a favorite lift? Because I don't know about you, but because I find on a day when I'm going to do a lift where I'm like, all I can do is think about doing that lift that day. Do you have one that you really love?
Power cleans and conventional deadlifts are my two favorites. I fucking love power cleans. Like, I like doing from any position. I'll do them off blocks. I'll do them from a hang. I'll do them off the floor. I love power cleans and I love deadlifts. There's just nothing that feels more authentic. Like, I never feel more like myself than I do when I'm deadlifting. Like, that just feels like that's my thing. I hate bench pressing. The opposite is bench pressing. I fucking hate it. I'm terrible at it. I have long arms and and for whatever reason, shoulder structure or something, they don't feel good. They don't feel comfortable. Like, I much prefer dumbbell variations. A barbell bench press just does not feel good to me.
If you're listening in, we refer to Mondays as International Chest Day. It's also known as International Left Shoulder Day, because of that. Vanessa, what about you? What do you like to lift?
So I love hang snatches, which is not everyone's favorite, but because of my body composition, I have shorter legs and a longer torso. So hangs just feel a little bit more natural to me. So I love hang snatches. And I absolutely love front squats. The benefit to my core, my posterior chain, just front squats. I'm also hypermobile. So my wrist I'm good.
I can't do the wrist thing. It's
That's fair.
It hurts.
Have you ever done zombie front squats? That might, help out there. You don't have to touch the bar at all.
Just hold your arms straight out and balance the bar across your shoulders. They're fantastic.
They're
love
them.
Good.
Yeah, I love doing them.
So, about 12, 13 years ago, I herniated a disc in my lower back, right? The deadlift was, and remains to this day, a conventional deadlift, not sumo. No one call me, I don't lift sumo. Pride. But that was my favorite exercise, the deadlift. But I can't do it anymore just because I'm so afraid of hurting myself. And that's my thing. The thing I hate doing actually most is actually biceps. I hate lifting biceps.
Okay, so that actually, I buy that because I think, especially if you're getting older, it's so easy to irritate your elbows and your shoulders doing anything biceps related. Like, especially if you weren't careful when you were young, like me. Like, I just constantly have some kind of elbow tendonitis, and it makes training biceps almost impossiple. Yeah,
I would say maybe the thing I enjoy most now is dips, actually.
Yeah, dips are great. They're so good.
You do have triceps, but also they're amazing for your chest as well. Right.
My coach lately has been having me do them like super slow and paused. So like really, really, really slow eccentric. And then you get fully into the leaned forward chest position. You pause there for a second or two and then drive back up. And it's like, I think they're my favorite chest exercise. Like, leaving aside the triceps part, love them for chest, and great for weightlifting too. Because they're so great for full extension and strengthening your lockout.
That's true. I learned the lockout rule the hard way.
No me gusta.
Yes.
What's on you all? I know that you have gym playlists.
For sure.
Because the worst days in the gym are the days you forget your headphones, which would happen to me yesterday. Vanessa, go for you first. What's on your gym playlist? Like, what songs? Give me like 3 out of your, like, because mine's like 65 songs long. But like, what are 3 or 4 songs that you have to listen to when you're lifting?
Okay, so it depends what I'm doing. If I'm doing heavy squats, I Prevail, Bring Me the Horizon, like Bad Omens, just screaming in my head. Because I need to reach depths of my soul and quads that are unreachable to the outside world. So if I'm doing heavy squats, I'm listening to heavy metal, screamo music. And then I have my everyday, like, I'm here, I'm going to have fun. And that includes Bad Bunny, especially now with his new album. Obviously that includes Pitbull. And, I'm from Miami, so I listen to a lot of EDM as well. So It's really hard for me to give you 3 or 4 songs, but I can, genres, and also depending on what I'm doing.
For me, it's either hip hop or usually some kind of like these 90s metal. So I would say if I'm trying to hit a PR, Rage Against the Machine. It's gotta be Rage.
Yeah.
Like, especially
Killing in the Name.
Killing in the Name is I always love Wake Up too, because you never know if you're going to be descending into a heavy squat right at the moment when he's screaming "Wake Up." Like, how do you not get up out of that? Like, that's you're letting down Tom Morello and Zach De La Rocha, and that you can't be that you can't be that person. So that's up there. I love Kendrick Lamar for lifting. I think that especially the God, I can't remember the album, the 2018 or 2019 album that had with a ton of bangers. That one, I think that's great lifting music. If I'm going a little esoteric with it, maybe ease metal, like 80s speed metal, I might hit some Motorhead, something like that. But that's because you can never truly separate yourself from the initial context in which you started doing something, right?
True that.
And I started lifting in the early 2000s in a gym in Yakima, Washington, with a bunch of old head powerlifters. And so it was just always that kind of music, right? Like that was what was on. So that to me sounds like the gym is supposed to sound. And like there's some part of my soul that I'll never be able to reach or replace that just associates like especially the sound of metal plates clanging with that kind of music.
Yes.
Bumper plates to me could go with anything, but metal plates clanging, it's got to be metal. It's got to be something like that.
Okay, first of all, you guys are making me and helping me reconceptualize the fact that I am totally lame and not cool at all, because your playlists sound way better than mine. You guys are like, oh, I listen to EDM. I'm like, don't.
Do I look cool enough to listen to EDM? You know the answer to that question is no.
Right.
Like,
okay.
you know it's no.
Well,
Vanessa's
what
got
else
that.
is gonna hype me up big clean other than a good Avicii song? Like, come on.
Okay.
I fully support it. I'm just saying I'm not cool enough to do that, and I know this.
So for me, I always have to start with Inner Sandman. Like, this is like a thing. And I have to be at the very particular song because Lars is such the worst drummer ever. But like going to when they they do as they're getting into it, and then when they all get going, that's when I start my rep. So like that has to be if I'm doing dips because doing dips is like I'm 260 pounds. It's a lot of weight to throw on my tendons and stuff like that. And it's like I'm like I'm not strong enough to do that, but I have to hit with that. Other things on my playlist. The DuckTales theme song is on my gym playlist because I'll just be sitting around just wiggling in the gym because everybody does when you come up off the bench and you're like you have to do the walk around thing that everybody does. So DuckTales. I'm in a chat group with 3 women who are amazing Egyptologists, and our theme song in this chat group is "King of Wishful Thinking" from, you guys remember from Pretty Woman?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I'm like, get over you. No, I will. I'm just,
okay. So I recently made an entire gym playlist that consisted of nothing but recent pop hits by female singers. So it was full of Charlie XCX, Chapel Roan, Sabrina Carpenter, and my daughter heard me playing this and she's like, "Can I come hang?" I'm like, "Absolutely, 100% yes." We had the time of our lives. That's now her in my playlist. It's no longer a gym playlist. It's multi-purpose. It's outgrown its original purpose. But as long as it's moving and it's got some spirit to it, I could probably get down. It just can't be too slow.
Yeah, and I do love metal versions of Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
so I'm hyped, but also angry. I'm like, This is a good happy medium.
Can I there's a bluegrass version of Taylor Swift song that's actually on my gym playlist of of Antihero. And can we tell you the greatest thing about Taylor Swift is she's given us all these other platforms for people to take their interpretations of her stuff.
Yes.
And you got metal versions and bluegrass versions, and they all she's like the Bruce Springsteen because there's versions of this elsewhere. I love it. So
it's awesome. It's awesome.
Yeah, I do love it.
I also love covers of Metallica songs by artists who are mostly more gifted than the members of Metallica, especially at the drums. But yeah,
Lars,
yes,
the worst.
You were talking about that.
Bad.
And I was thinking about how I'm probably the only person who likes Saint Anger as an album and will listen to it regularly. And I hear that stupid ass drum and I'm like, I can get through this to the parts that I like.
No.
There's a Spotify playlist that I found. It's called EDM Metal Mix.
Ooh.
And it's like, I mean, it's bringing two artists that I think they've basically blended, where it's like Metallica and Tiesto. And it's just such a good way to get the angries but the happies out. And I do love listening to a bunch of different music, but I'm very lucky that the gym I go to now, CrossFit Bloomington, they have great music that's at level like 500 at all times. And I've realized that if I don't have music at level 500, I can't lift. Pat, this goes back to what you were saying when you were at the gym when you first started. It reminds you when you were there. And when I started at that gym in Gainesville and we were listening to reggaeton at level 500, I was like, well, I can't hit my lifts now if I can't hear myself think. So when folks talk about like, I need complete silence before I go for a lift, I'm like, I cannot do that. How do I ask for a walk-on song that continues as I'm lifting?
Oh my gosh.
So that freaked me out at the last Olympic weightlifting competition I did. I did the Arizona State Championships. Got second in my weight class. Baby is the one of
nice.
There were three people. There were three people in the Masters.
It's like a grant, dude. You were like, look, I won that grant. No one else applied.
I'll take it.
But
it freaked me out because there was no music. It was silent. I hated it. I didn't like it. I'm like, this is not my thing. The only noise was when this is how you know it's like a local Olympic weightlifting competition. They had stacked up all the plyo boxes to wall off the warm-up area from the actual lifting platform. And just before I went out to do my last clean and jerk, somebody knocked over the entire wall of plyo boxes, and that was the only noise in the place. Like that's how you know it's a local Olympic weightlifting competition. Is some part of the apparatus comes tumbling down. But yeah, it's like, but I don't know, to kind of bring it around, I guess, like, I think there's real value in the kind of focus for an academic, in the kind of focus that you learn by doing a 1 rep max of anything. That you have to learn to shut out distractions. You have to learn to focus on the task at hand. And in a really intense way, it serves to focus. I think that bleeds over into other aspects of your life. I think it makes you better at other things. And I hate to be like, like one of the right-wing chuds who talks about this stuff all the time, but like, discipline is a thing. You can teach yourself to be more disciplined.
Hold on.
You don't have to.
As I pull down my Jocko Willink Discipline Equals Freedom book.
I hate how much I love Jocko, man. I hate how much I love it. God. Yeah, like not to be one of those guys, but it is real. But it is a thing.
He's right.
He's not wrong. And like it really has.
Good.
It really has made me better and more disciplined at everything I do. Like it has dramatically improved my quality of life and my qualities as a person.
Yeah, that consistency is important.
For those of you who can't see, I keep my book by the former Navy SEAL underneath underneath my Lego TIE Fighter in Star Wars. That's from a Dejeric board that I got at Walt Disney World. So that's Star Wars.
Just so you know, you are. I can't tell if you are one of many or the only person who keeps their copy of Jocko's book under a Star Wars figure. They're like it's one or the other. There's no middle ground. It's either extremely common or you're the only person, and there's no middle ground there.
Just everywhere. All right, guys. All right, so we're finishing up here now. Vanessa, have you lifted today? Are you at the gym right now? Where are you? Are you going to lift now? Where are you?
No, before we started this, I had just come home from lifting. So I had to like sit down and breathe because I was just out of breath because I did leg day because why not? And then I had to go upstairs. So I had to sit and catch my breath for a second. So I got my workout for the day. I did my clean and jerk combo. I did my front squats. So I am worked out for the day.
So your front rack is punished right now. You are feeling it in the shoulders, I would imagine.
Typing tomorrow is gonna just be a whole other level, but absolutely.
RIP to your wrists and elbows. Like that's the
So I guess what I'll finish up is with what lifts are we doing tomorrow? What's tomorrow for you guys?
I got a choice to make because according to my schedule, I'm supposed to have a rest day, but on Thursday,
take your rest day.
But on Thursday, I have to
resting.
but I have to coach on Thursday and Saturday, and that involves a lot of running around after 5 and 6 year olds. So I'm like, do I want to squat and deadlift in the same day and then run a long way with children? Or do I want to like make that my rest day? So this is the choice. My next workout is I have 12 deadlift singles at 350-ish and a bunch of and pause squats. So that's the next one. I'm really excited about it. I want to do it. I want to do it now. I mean, if I'm being honest, but
we'll lift now.
I want to. I've briefly tried to do 2-a-days, which a lot of competitive Olympic weightlifters do, and I'm too old for that shit.
Arnold was a fan.
I'm Danny Glover, man. I'm too old for that shit. Joints couldn't handle it.
Yeah, 2-a-day seems
Vanessa?
intense.
Yeah.
I don't do 2-a-days. I do every 2 days because I need the rest time. And this semester I'm teaching in the evening. So there's, my gym time goes, I'm walking around the class. So that to me is a nice way to move my
Cardio.
body. But my next lifts, I just pulled it up on my app. I have jerk with 5-second eccentric dips and 5-second hold in the split. And then snatch grip RDLs. Yeah, I just shot out to 1 kilo. That's who I'm lifting with right now. They've got Olympians on the team, but every time I see the eccentric dip and the 5-second hold, I just know I'm going to be in for it.
Yeah, my face right now, it just, yeah.
Our face right now, Pat. We're not releasing video because Pat, as you're listening right now, Pat and I are making faces that go, no.
Yeah.
No, not at all.
I've put in my time doing those, and I don't ever want to do them again.
You never really know what 5 seconds is until you're like 1, 2, and you can't, like your clavicle is just getting truncated underneath that barbell.
I hate it. I hate it so much. Nothing but respect to you for continuing to do that. My goodness, that's too much. No more. I still love. I don't want to split jerk anymore. Like after I quit Olympic weightlifting, I'm not doing any more split jerks. I'm only going to do push jerks or power jerks, maybe like the occasional squat jerk for fun. But like the split jerks, I find so hard on my ankles at this point, like trying to stabilize after decades of ankle injuries. But God, that 5 seconds, 5 seconds that's practically an eternity.
In the dip and the hold. So it's not just in the dip, but once you get to the jerk, you got to hold the 5 seconds.
Don't like it. Don't care for it.
I will take that over a power jerk any day, or some of the Chinese weightlifters who jerk all the way at the bottom in a power jerk. It's just crazy.
Yeah, that's a squat jerk. I don't know.
Thank you.
The only way the mobility, the shoulder and wrist mobility it takes to do that is I can't understand it. So it's like you're doing a snatch where you're sinking all the way to the bottom. If you've never seen them do this, it's like a snatch where you're sinking all the way to the bottom on the catch and the jerk, except you don't have the grip width where that is what normally allows you to hold that position in a snatch. Your hands are much narrower. I don't understand how it's possible. It blows my mind. It's one of the most badass things I've ever seen.
I'm in awe every time I watch the videos, and I will stop. I will watch every video, and those Instagram reels where they break it down and they make it really slow and you just see every single step. And, one day I'll get there, but until then, I'll just admire that through video.
I think 60 kilos is the most I've ever been able to do it with, which is exactly half of my best jerk. Like I've never been able to go above that, but power jerks, yeah, that's fine. And honestly, for like strongman and type applications, I think power jerk is more transferable because you can do it with like a log and it carries over directly to the circus dumbbell, other overhead lifts.
Those look so fun.
I miss strongman stuff.
They're so fun. The circus dumbbell in particular, like if you're used to doing overhead stuff from Olympic lifting, it feels really natural and it's super fun. If you ever like drop in at like a powerlifting or a strongman gym that has one, just try it out. I guarantee you, you're gonna have the time of your life.
Yeah, it's.
Do you know what I miss? When I was in Florida, I don't know if you guys ever saw this. I used to have this massive tractor tire behind my house.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And I would go outside with a 16-pound sledgehammer and just go. Can I say go ham? Is that what the kids say these days? Or is that already out? I don't know. But like I would like pretend I was Rocky in Siberia, right? Like that was, and it looked cool.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I know it's going to look cool. People are going to say, wow, that looks cool. I'm like, it is.
I can't see a tire not want to do a tire flip because I'm like, you just want to be flipped. This is the purpose.
I tried flipping that tire one time and almost threw out every bone in my body. That tire was so heavy. When they gave it to me, because they'll give you the tires for free so they don't have to dispose of them. They're like, "Are you sure?" I was like, "Yeah, it'll be fine." And they had to use a forklift to get the tire into the back of the truck.
Goodness gracious!
Oh, dude, yeah, dude, I ego lift for listening. Like, I am preparing to engage reviewer number 2 at all times. Like, I will show up. It's like, oh, you want to make some edits? Oh, you don't like my you don't like my ideas?
That's what the tire's for, man. Like
that is what the tire's for. That's gonna be the author picture on the back of my first books. Like, this is what Jason thinks of your criticism.
Yeah.
So
this is you should put that. I'm gonna put that in the acknowledgments for my next book. Actually, I'd like to thank the tractor tire that I've been.
I want to thank the tire
relentlessly to get out my frustrations about this process. That's or not even in the acknowledgments. Just make it the dedication.
Absolutely, I want the tire. All right, guys, thank you both so much for being here, for doing this. When I started to think about who I wanted to have on for this conversation, you were both the first 2 people I thought of, and then you both basically said yes. So, guys, thank you both for being here. This was just so much fun. Let's do it again on leg day.
Absolutely. Never skip leg day.
No. Every day is leg day if you're working hard enough. That's
right.
That's a good
Real scholars do leg day. Nobody skips leg day. Yeah. Look, everybody, thank you so much for. Go ahead.
It's easier.
Go on, Pat.
Leg day is easier than a doctoral dissertation.
Ooh, that is fighting words.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, maybe my leg day is not hard enough.
My doctoral dissertation wasn't that good, so that's fine. Hey, they said go.
Yeah,
leave now.
It served its purpose, which is to not have to do that anymore. That's the only goal.
Absolutely. So, guys, thank you so much, everybody, for listening, and thank you so much. If you want to talk about Hist Gym or whatever, just working out or so forth, ask them. Don't ask me. I have no idea what I'm doing. So, thank you all so much for being here. We'll catch you later.